Chag Kasher v'Sameach, a happy and kosher Passover is the traditional greeting. And the festival of Passover is approaching. First night of Passover, the night of the Seder, is a time of tremendous spiritual power, called by our sages the night of sanctification, called by the Torah the night of watching. It's a time of tremendous potential. We have the Torah obligation to recount the entire night, the story of the Exodus of Egypt, going out from Egypt. We have very unique and interesting halachic requirements that night to partake of matzah and bitter herb, the 4 cups of wine. We have the beautiful liturgy of the Haggadah, the main text of telling the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And it's a night where literally we have to ourselves somehow leave Egypt. And the main focal point of the Seder night, of course, is the recitation of the Haggadah, the Seder plate, and we come to this night literally exhausted from all of the intense Passover preparations. There's no Jewish home that hasn't been totally ransacked and turned over, searching for anything made out of leaven, searching for any leaven, as the Torah obligates us to make sure that all leaven leaves our premises and our ownership during this festival. And so, after having put in possibly weeks in some families' time to get ready for Passover, finally the night arrives, that night of tremendous spiritual portent, the time when we gather together with our families to leave Egypt and to recount the story of the original Exodus. And it's the 14th of Nisan, and we have already accounted for all of the chametz, and then the morning comes and we have destroyed all of the extra chametz in our possession, and the last-minute preparations are being taken care of, preparing for the Seder. And maybe if there's a little extra time in the house, then the kids will take a nap so that they'll have plenty of energy to stay up late to the Seder. And then the night of the Seder rolls around and, wait just a minute. Something is not right here. To tell you the truth, we have to stop here, because this is not really the Passover that the Torah had intended. And the Passover that we're describing, those feverish preparations, getting the home ready, and the physical and the spiritual level of removing the leaven and everything that it represents, and really getting ready for the Seder, and it's such a beautiful time, and it is a time of tremendous spiritual power, and it's a beautiful time with the family, but there is something radically wrong with this picture, which we have somehow gotten used to in these waning generations, and that is that the real focal points of Pesach, the Passover experience, is not just the recounting of the story of going out from Egypt, and not just the Seder plate with all of its significance and symbolism, but the real focal point of the Passover experience is the Passover offering. And that shank bone or drumstick or neck or whatever it is that we use on the Seder plate is but a reminder of the fact that the Seder in the time of the Holy Temple was something else altogether. This is a really important point to make, because unfortunately it's really glossed over by many people. And Passover, as beautiful a time as it is, and as holy an experience as it is, and in many ways perhaps it's one of the most important nights of the whole year, we really do need to understand that the Passover experience that we have today is a far cry from Passover in the time of the temple, and Passover as it really was originally intended by our Holy Torah, and the Passover which we are supposed to be having now, because you know there are many important opinions of our great sages of yesteryear and today that the Jewish people are totally obligated, even as we speak, even now, to rally themselves, to organize themselves, and to bring the Passover offering. And in fact, the admonition and the punishment for not bringing the Passover offering is actually quite severe. So this is a major question that has been rekindled in our time. How can we go about realizing the objective of the Torah, indeed, to bring the Passover offering? Nothing has changed First Passover was actually observed in Egypt. The original commandment that God gave the Jewish people was while they were yet in Egypt. And generation upon generation brought the Passover offering up to the temple in Jerusalem. Today, actually, there is rekindled interest like never before in the reestablishment of the Passover offering. There's even a movement that's being welcomed in many quarters, and it's being highly criticized in other quarters here in Israel, to prepare ourselves as best as possible with sheep for the possibility of bringing a Passover offering this year. And in fact, there is even a website which has been opened up by the Sanhedrin, Friends of the Sanhedrin, website that you can see at korbanpesach.org, where you can actually pay 7 shekels by credit card to join and to become a member of a group that will be included in a Passover offering, because there actually is a Torah obligation for every Jew to be a subscriber to a particular Passover offering, and these offerings are brought by groups to the temple on the 14th day of Nisan. So, who knows? Will it be this year? Will it be next year? One thing is for certain, the renewal and the arousal of interest in our time, really like never before, in an unprecedented outpouring of enthusiasm. More and more people are beginning to understand that the excuses for not bringing the offering, the excuses for waiting for something to happen, for some sort of divine intervention, for some sort of permission, these things are not going to happen until, just as when we cross the sea, until we show Hashem some sign of life, some deep interest in wanting to revitalize the original commandment.